Move along.
Hello everyone, this is the Mohawk Ninja here, and today, being Grand Theft Auto 4 Wednesdays, I'm going to be showing off two more modifications that you can do, and in this case it's going to be specifically to two of the values that the vehicles can handle. So, in front of me I have a completely unmodified Comet here, and I'm going to drive it around and kind of show off what the unmodified values look like. Now, the two values that I'm going to be showing, the two values that I'm going to be editing are the suspension force and the brake force. So, if we look right now, the suspension on the vehicle is about, probably a bit softer than maybe what a real performance car like this would have. Then again, maybe this is about what it would be like, but generally, you know, nothing too extreme. It can handle corners, it takes bumps, you can see that it dips a bit. And then if we can get up to speed somewhere around here. Okay. Yeah, apologies for all the lag. Okay, so if we get up to speed, and you know, the vehicle stops pretty well. And this, again, this is just the base values, and this is what you're going to expect from many of the base cars in the game. So now I'm going to get out and make, I believe I'll start out with the suspension force. And I'm going to get out and make that a really, really high value. So I'll probably add like, maybe I'll probably add 3 zeros to whatever the current value is. Then I'll come back in the game and show you what that'll do. Okay, I'm back. I've modified the value, and as I said, I'm essentially adding 3 zeros. The original suspension force value for the Comet in Grand Theft Auto 4 is 2.4. Now, I don't know if this is newtons, kilonewtons, or just some arbitrary value that the devs have. So what I did is I bumped it up to 2400, and it has some really weird effects. Like, I spawned one and I tried driving it over this location and starting it, and actually had trouble getting out because of what happened. So, without further ado, let's try and drive this thing. And as you can already see, it's like you have uncontrollable hydraulics or something, and it makes the car really hard to drive. Because this is what 2400 suspension force is like. In Roman, I don't care to you. Do not care about Roman. But yes, this is what a high suspension force value does. I was thinking it was just going to make the suspension really stiff, and oh wait, am I gonna flip? Nope. I thought it was just gonna make it a really, really stiff suspension, like a racing suspension or something like that. I was definitely not expecting the car to just bounce. See, there's an AI one just kind of bouncing. Yeah. I kind of like this. It's a bit absurd. So, and as I said, this actually makes it really hard to get out because the game won't necessarily let you get out of your vehicle if it's moving very much. I mean, if you're moving in high speeds, you can. But if you're moving at like a certain, like less than a certain amount, it won't. So like if I try and get out right now, I'm mashing. There we go. Okay. And now that I'm out, and oh. So yeah, this is what a high suspension force value on a car is like, and I can't even get on top of my car because it's launching me off. So now I'm going to put this back down to 2.4 value, and then I'm going to modify. I'm going to modify the brake force value and do that. Essentially move the decimal place over 3 places, and that what I want to see when I do this brake force, I want to see if when I get to a high enough speed and I slam on the brakes, if I'm just going to launch out the window or whatnot. So I'll be right back with the next modification for this Comet. Okay, I'm back, and now I've reset the suspension force on this back down to its original 2.4, and I've modified the brake force value on it, which is originally 0.34, and it's now 340. So, let's see what this does. I have no idea if it's going to flip this car or whatnot. Huh. Doesn't actually seem to do much of anything. Oh. Unless it's like the handbrake, maybe. Is that how it is? It's really fast speed. It's actually kind of interesting. I thought it was gonna... Then again, this game actually takes into account traction, so... I suppose if you don't have a heck of a lot of traction, the force value will be kind of irrelevant, and oh yeah, I'm not getting it.
Not funny.
Well, this doesn't seem to be terribly interesting, although maybe once I set it to a negative value, the game won't really know what to do. That's one of the fun things, is that you start setting things to negative values, and sometimes the game just doesn't seem to know what it wants to do. Yeah, I think the fact that this doesn't do anything is due to the fact that I didn't modify the traction values. So I'm gonna head back out, reset this, and then I'm gonna go back to the suspension modification and drop that down to a negative value. I believe I'll do a negative 2400 value on that. Okay, I'm back, and I've modified the Comet suspension force value to be negative 2400. And you don't see it spawned yet because due to the fact that this is the suspension and all of the physics tends to kick in when they spawn, possibly, I feel that there might be a chance that when I spawn it, I won't even have to touch it and things will start happening. So, type in the code, 175, and, okay, nothing weird happened yet. Okay. And maybe none of the physics loads, but something weird's going to happen. Oh geez. Come on, go.
Get out of my way. Come on, move it.
Whoa. I'm like, it's like I'm on ice. That car really... I'm going to go hijack this car and see what happens when I push the Comet. It seems like it's acting as if it was on ice.
Put your hands on me.
Huh. That's interesting.
This is your boy from Bohan. What's poppin'? Yeah.
The car seems to have no natural brakes almost.
How many units? Real talk, man. Damn.
Huh. That's actually quite interesting. I mean, I can see why the suspension drops as much as it does, because you have, you know, the high physics force value makes it so it's pushing farther away, or it expands more when any sort of contracting force acts on it. So as a negative value, it's going to contract instead of expand. But I can't exactly explain why there's no brakes per se on it. That's actually quite interesting. Okay, so that seems to about cover what the suspension can do when you make it a much larger number and when you make it an equally large negative number. So now I'm going to head back out and modify the brake force value, which by the looks of it might not do anything because it seems as though the brake force is heavily dependent on traction in this game, but we'll see. Okay, I'm back, and this Comet you see in front of me now has a brake force of negative 340. As you can see, already something weird going on. The rims are spinning, or at the very least just spazzing out. And I actually spawned one a couple of seconds ago, and a car hit it and something really weird happened. For whatever reason, a positive value seems to affect the... a positive value seems to not necessarily affect anything. And I'm almost suspicious if it didn't save or something, as this actually did something. And maybe just because it's a negative, you got some weird math going on. But this is what happens when a negative value. So, start driving forward, and tons of lagging. The rims don't seem to be moving at all. And when we go to stop, the car speeds up. And this happens even when the car gets impacted, so... see if I can let myself bump into a car, maybe. Because the game seems to treat impacts as a braking force, almost. See if I can...
Fuck.
if I can let myself get impacted, maybe. But, yeah, like, here, I'll just brake again, and I just start going forward, like... who needs any sort of gas when you can just hold the brake? And I flipped my car. So, yeah, that would be a good example of what brake values on cars do. That's coming from... huh, what do you know? It must be because it's touching the walls. I mean, I would believe because it looks like the back right tire is touching. And it's attempting to accelerate almost. I'm not even in the car. So, that about sums up the high negative values and high positive values of what you can do. And I believe I'll be using the Comet more often since it's a much more objective measure than that super modded car that I used in the first video. So, if you guys want to see certain values for next week, that you want to see what does it look like when you throw really big numbers or really big negative numbers in it, just comment down below. And I will see you guys tomorrow.